Joy Ma Tara sir.
Jai Matara, Jai Bhairava Baba, Jai Ma Kamakhya.
This episode will be about Skanda.
Yeah.
Who is Skanda, sir?
So good that we are discussing Skanda. It has been on my mind for some time to have a more dedicated episode on Kartikeya Skanda. So primarily Skanda is the son of Shiva, who was born for the explicit purpose of destroying Asuras. Okay. So when the story goes that when the Asuras could not be killed because they had a boon, that they can only be killed when Shiva has a son. And since Shiva is in constant samadhi, he is a ascetic, he's not a family man.
No.
So they were sure that he will never have a son. So, but then that is when the story, the Leela, we call it, the play of the gods, that happens, where Shiva, there's a urja, this his shakti, his urja actually comes out. In some texts it comes out from his third eye, but it's like a ball of fire. It's so hot and so powerful that it cannot be contained anywhere. So it's first taken in, the urja of Shiva is first taken in by the Ganges, but the water can't contain it because it's so hot. It's taken in by fire, and the fire can contain it because it's so hot. And then it is thrown around into a kind of a muddy place with shrubs. These shrubs are known as Sharavana. And this is where this urja actually is then taken care of by 6 very fierce divine women, very fierce. They are known as the Kritikas. Kritika is synonymous with the scissors, something that cuts through, that sharp. Okay, so these 6 women then take care of that urja, and it develops into a child with 6 heads. And then eventually, as it grows up, the story says that Parvati comes and holds all the 6 together, and they fuse into one being. And this is Kartikeya. So Kartikeya is basically the son of Shiva.
Okay.
Who's born for the explicit purpose of destroying Asuras. And therefore, we see Kartikeya is defined in the texts, he's described as the Lord of War, as the general of the divine army. It's a very specific epithet. He's the commander of the armies. So he's not just a general, any warrior deity. No, he is the leader of the army. When the divine army goes, when the gods have their battle against the Asuras, Kartikeya plays the role of a leader of that army who takes the battle right from the beginning, from the forefront, and then emerges victorious by destroying the Asuras. That is what he is, a god of war, primarily, first and foremost, whose explicit birth was so that the Asuras could be destroyed.
Sir, Asuras in that yug, in today's day and age, it could mean negativity, adharma, anything.
Absolutely.
Sir, why would Karthik Upasana be so less in the northern part of our Bharat?
So this is, first of all, again, at an ancient time, at least till the 8th century, middle of the 8th century, we have enough evidence that Kartika Upasana used to be very, very prominent, specifically even from Afghanistan right up to Bengal. In fact, we have evidence in certain parts of North Bengal. There is to be a great temple of Skanda, whose reference is mentioned even by poets and scholars in Kashmir, that there is to be a great temple of Kartikeya Skanda, and people, upasakas and devotees from across India used to come there. Right now, there's nothing there. It's just like an archaeological field kind of place. Right now, no trace of it exists. Even most Bengalis today would not be aware of it, even the history of that place.
Yes, sir.
Then that was in North Bengal. Even in South Bengal, some of the districts, there was a long history of Upasana of Kartikeya. Some places, for example, like Haryana and all those areas where you have cities like Rohtak, there are texts that mention that Kartikeya Upasana was very prominent. And not just prominent, those are one of the cities that Skanda actually loved. Apparently. So all this thing, we see that there is enough number of evidences that show that Kartikeya Upasana was extremely popular across India, and not just India. It was beyond India, beyond the geography of modern India, which means that even Central Asia, Afghanistan, areas of Pakistan and all those areas. We have the Gupta Empire. You'll see so many kings known by the name of Kumara. In fact, the term Kumara that is used in North, which we say when we refer to a young man, we say the word Kumara. The word Kumara itself is a name of Kartikeya, because he's a young man. He's the army, he's the general of the army. Okay.
And he's a very handsome god.
Yes, that's the second aspect of Kartikeya. The first aspect is that he is the general of the gods. And so we have kings like Kumaragupta, Skandagupta. These are all names of Kumara.
Okay.
Okay, so the warrior gods, the generals, the kings, is to keep their names, the name of Skanda, then mint coins with depictions of Kartikeya and Skanda, because he is finally the leader of the gods in terms of when it comes to war. And same thing we see even in Jyotisha texts, like the Brihat Parashar Hoda Shastra, which is an old text of Jyotish. It mentions that Mars is connected to Skanda. The Graha Mars is the warrior among the Grahas. Mars is the fighter. Okay. So Mars is controlled by Skanda. That is his.
So Mars is Mangal.
That
is Tuesday.
Tuesday. So Mangal is one of the names.
Names.
So each name has an attribute of that being.
Okay.
Of that graha. So when we use the term Mangal, it means that we want the auspiciousness of that graha. Because the other aspect of Mangal is the warrior, absolute warrior. He goes into fights. Okay. Is as fast as lightning is described. He is blood and all those things. Okay. So both aspects are there. So we want Mars to be favorable to us. So we use the word Mangal. Let him be auspicious. But this whole graha is governed by Kartikeya. He's like a leader. He's a god. He's beyond the grahas. By the way, he can control all the grahas. But specifically with Mars, he's a link. Because just like Mars, or rather just like Kartikeya, Mars also represents a young man in Jyotisha. Okay, but somebody who has that hot blood, what you call, that type of, the fighter, that type of an attitude.
The
warrior. So that is how Kartikeya was primarily a god of war. Along with it, there are a few other attributes. For example, he's also known as extremely handsome. Kumara. Okay. We know in Bengal also, the traditional lore tells us, though the Kartik Upasana has faded significantly in Bengal over centuries, right now only in pockets, in certain rural areas you'll find that, in other places. But still the common idea is that he is considered to be a god of beauty. Okay, so when there are childless couples, sometimes people go and put the Kartika Vigraha in their house. So if you worship the Vigraha, you'll have a child, various things like that. Kartikeya has a link to beauty in another sense, that he is also considered to have a link with Kamdeva. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
In some sampradayas, in certain mantra shastras, this link comes out very powerfully, specifically in the Upasana of Sri Vidya. Okay. This goes into a little tangential territory, but we'll not go too deep into that. But primarily, Kartikeya's foremost energy is that of the warrior, that strength. So that what it does to an upasana, to an individual, is that gives you tremendous willpower and determination. So you have the target set in your mind, I want to achieve that. Jo bhi ho life mein, whatever it is. Once that comes in, he is the one deity who will, if his blessings is on an individual, so you will overcome any obstacle and you will reach there. Doesn't matter what the obstacle is.
Sir, how did you get into Skanda Upasana? Because it's not very heard of in the eastern part of this country.
Well, first, couple of years ago, when I had stayed in Chennai for about 6 months' time, that's when I had bought one Vigraha of Skanda, Kartikeya, and kept it home. When I had kept that Vigraha, I thought that I was, buying that Vigraha for somebody else or some friend to gift it to somebody, but I could never gift it. I used to keep it in my puja space. I used to think that someday I'm going to worship Kartikeya. I don't know when, but this thought used to be there lingering in my mind. Then, in 2023, I got involved in the Kamakhya Corridor case because there were certain clear instructions and indications, some things I've spoken of earlier as well. So there was an Ashtamangala Prashna conducted in which it was clearly told that a court case has to be filed with respect to the Kamakhya Corridor, because right now, whatever the plans are, etc., have the potential to cause immense amount of damage to the Kshetra. And so that is when I had to,
you were dragged in.
Sort of. It was not something I had in mind, pre-planned. Even 15 days before that, I had no plan of actually doing a court case. But it came in, it was a very powerful reading, so powerful that almost 99.99% of whatever they had said has all turned out true, even to the smallest details. I have the whole reading recorded with me. And to verify that, I even later on went and met those same astrologers in Kerala and got few more readings, and everything turned out to be perfect. It is there. in that reading, during the course of that, it was a very powerful reading. I was specifically guided. So it was like as if the deity, as if Ma Kamakhya herself was giving the instructions of what needs to be done in order that this, this process goes through. And I was told very categorically that Karthikeya Upasana has to be started along with Bhairava and the Kamakhya Upasana that I do, along with the personal upasanas of the deities that I worship. Karthikeya Upasana is mandatorily to be started in order that eventually this case leads to a positive outcome. And for that purpose, I mean, from that point till now, so what happened, if we just briefly go into it one line.
Yes, sir.
So we filed the court case PIL, then another individual also joined in another court case with the same matter. Eventually in the PIL that we filed, the honorable judge of the Guwahati High Court had to mention specifically that whatever it is, the sacred stream of water that flows underneath, subterranean stream of water in Kamakhya Hills, Nilachal Parvat, cannot be disturbed by anything. And that itself was like a protection, because the moment that was done, immediately there is the question of ensuring that the whole plans that the government had done till now had not taken into account that stream of water at all.
Very scary.
Yeah, this is absolutely scary.
Sir,
in the name of development, it would have been absolutely disastrous. Completely. There's no question about it.
I mean, imagine if the water would have stopped.
Yeah.
Who would have taken the responsibility then?
So we had engineers, civil engineers and others study the plans that the government had put up in public domain. And it came out that there is a digging of almost 10-15 feet that had to be done, drilling, without any consideration of how the water flow is, where is it gotten affected, nothing. So it's just like any ordinary person going through any person with even 10% common sense going through the plans, like just make something out there, and so that you can do a ribbon cutting and some clapping eventually, and then can say that you have done something. But the damage would be to whom? Damage would not be to the government. Government really doesn't care about anything. One thing I've realized is that no government belongs to anybody. Yes. So if you are a Hindu, and if you have reverence to a space, it is your duty to protect it. Nobody else is going to come and protect it. Government is definitely not going to protect it. Government's role is just to come with photo up and pretend that, we did something. That is the reality, because they had no idea what they were doing. But now the government is at least acknowledged, due to the pressure, due to the judgment of the courts, that it has to rope in IIT and do a mapping of the water flow and things like that. The matter is still in the courts, still going on. There is few more things. It's not over yet. But given that all the Shilanyas and everything happened last year in January, it's for one and a half years. Where we are today is a much positive outcome. Let me put it this way. And none of it would have been possible without the blessings of Bhagavan Skanda. I was told categorically multiple times, even when I met them later in Kerala, they were told that Skanda Upasana is mandatory. In fact, the term one of the Jyotishas used, that Skanda wants to enter into this war. Oh. So basically, you start doing the Upasana, he wants to enter into this war so that the protection of the Kshetra is maintained. In fact, much earlier in the 1950s, when the current road in Kamakhya was built, it's believed that during construction of the road,
that entrance that we climb up in the cars.
No, cars, exactly. That road was built in 50s. Before that, there was no roads. 50s, one particular stone structure was damaged, which was considered to be Skanda. Okay, for a week or some period of days, a strange disease started happening and people started dying after that. So in order to pacify the deities, specific pujas in Vanadurga temple had to be conducted for days, so that the kind of a peculiar disease that was killing people so that it stops, so that lives are protected. So the point is that Kamakhya is a different place, and this whole case would not have happened, would not have reached the conclusion where it is, had it not been, apart from the Bhairava pujas, from the various other pujas that were done, and I will not list out all of that, but Skanda played a very significant role, and this was evident to us in terms of as and how the development of the case would happen on specific days, specific tithis, specific helps that came to us were very clear. The nimitta was absolutely clear that it is Skanda who was very actively trying to help us, aid us in the process of the protection of the Kshetra.
Moving on, sir. Skanda is also called Guru to Shiva.
Yeah. Skanda is also called Guru to Shiva, correct.
But Skanda is Shiva's son.
Yeah. So this is the beauty of the play of the gods. So Skanda And in fact, to complete the previous section, suddenly one thought came.
Ji.
So once I started doing the Skanda Upasana, a very specific sadhana of Skanda I started. Okay, I will not mention what that is, but because there was an aggressive need of the aid of Skanda, so the Upasana was also a bit aggressive.
Okay.
On the 144th day of the Upasana, unbroken 144th day of the Upasana, I was able to visit the hill shrine of Palani in few hours from Coimbatore, where there's an ancient Skanda temple on top of the hill, and it was on the day which is considered to be the most auspicious day of Skanda Upasana. So it was not planned; it just happened organically that I could land up there. It was super crowded, and yet I could go there and I could have a darshan. So this is how, and not just have a darshan. Then right after that, there was somebody who has a link to Skanda, who has been worshipping in that shrine, has a connection to that shrine, who came forward and helped me in guiding me rather in more details of Skanda Upasana, like what needs to be given. An individual who has been connected to the shrine for more than 10 generations. Okay. 10 generations. So he helped me understand certain more nuances of Skanda Upasana, what needs to be done. So that I considered as a blessing. A family, for 10 generations, they've been doing specific sevas to that
Skanda.
deity. Okay. So this is how, these are the signs, these are the ways in which a deity shows his approval of whether, when you're doing a sadhana, whether he or she approves of it or not.
Yes, because we go to a temple, nobody really comes and says,
Right.
"Aise karo, waise karo."
Going.
You going suddenly out of the blue on the 144th
day, and that is the day I got to meet him, that gentleman
him.
also, who was a Skanda Upasaka.
Skanda Upasana.
So Skanda is considered, so he's the son of Shiva.
Yes.
In a way, you must understand, when we use the word son of Shiva, it is a way of describing a more subtle phenomenon. Shiva himself has no physical body. Shiva is Nirakara and Swakara both. He doesn't have a physicality like we humans have. So what is the meaning of a being who has no physicality having a son? It is basically meaning that the essence of Shiva is in Skanda. Okay. Shiva is very vast. There's nothing in the universe that does not encompass Shiva, is beyond the universe also. But if all of that was filtered down to a stream, then Skanda would be one essence of Shiva. That is the virya, the urja of Shiva means basically the essence of Shiva comes down in the form of Skanda. And a child means that it's a path and a deity who comes closer to the earth plane, and it's easier for us to connect. Same way as Ganapati.
Okay.
These are children. What it means by the term children of the deities is that they are very cosmic. Shiva and Shakti are very powerful, very cosmic. It's difficult to fully comprehend them. I mean, little bit of comprehension is one thing. Going to their realm is very difficult. So what happens is, when we say they have children, means specific energies of them, divine energies that come down, that are closer to the earth, so that it's easier for people to connect to them. Okay. And reap benefits from their worship. So that is what they represent. There is a story where Skanda actually teaches the meaning of the pranava to Shiva.
Okay. The Omkara.
Omkara. He teaches what it means to Shiva. There's a tradition which believes that. And by doing so, he becomes like a guru to Shiva. So this basically means is that Skanda is a young man. Normally, our idea of a guru is somebody who's old, white hair, sitting in some years. But Skanda is just the opposite. He's a young man who's very sharp, who's a fighter, but who also has the knowledge of the Omkara, so much powerfully ingrained in him that he can teach Shiva. He has the capacity to teach Shiva. So that is the aspect of somebody who can teach Pranava to Shiva, is the guru of everybody. Can become the Jagatguru, is the Jagatguru. So Skanda also is a guru to everybody and anybody who connects to him in that format. If you want guidance from him, if somebody wants guidance from him, that too will come. So he has the Guru Tattva very strongly ingrained inside him. And the beauty of Skanda is exactly this, that he doesn't look like a guru, because he's a young man. Our conception of a guru is somebody who's very old, mature, sober. He's just the opposite of that. He's nothing. He's not even old. He's young. And this youthfulness also is an indication of his eternality, which means that he never ages. He's always at that age. For 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, till the beginning, till the end of time, he's at that age. He's never going to grow older than that.
And I've seen Murugan Swami, the child Swaroop of Skanda, holding a veil like this in his hand. Is the veil an astra that, Skanda is associated with?
Yeah, so in South specifically, the weapon, the astra of Skanda is considered as a veil, whereas in Eastern India and other places we use bow and arrow to represent the weapon of Skanda. So the veil is like a sphere. So the belief is that once Skanda entered into a battle with the Asuras, he had a 6-day very raging battle with the army of the Asuras. One after the other, he started defeating them. And he and his people, there are 9 Veeras in his army, 9 brave warriors, they believe. And the leader of those is Skanda. And he goes and attacks the Asuras. And on this, as he's fighting with them, on the 6th day, Parvati gives him the veil. Parashakti gives him the veil as the astra by which he will finally get victory. Using that, he is able to destroy the Asuras. So veil is not just a weapon of Skanda, but veil is considered as an equivalent of Skanda. There's a huge tradition of worshipping the veil as Skanda. If somebody doesn't have a vigraha of Skanda, they can keep the veil in front, even if it's a small veil, and then do some puja of the veil, considering the veil as Skanda, and then worship.
Okay. And is this the reason that Karthik Swami Skanda has 6 heads, 6 days of war?
6 is a number connected to Kartikeya. He's born on so he's taken care of by the Kritika, who are 6 in numbers.
6 in numbers.
So he has 6 faces, right? And he's born on Shashti tithi, Shukla Baksha Shashti tithi.
So that is again number 6.
Yes, number 6. 6 is also the number of war, by the way. In terms of when we see Jyotisha, 6 is one of the Dusthanas. Dusthanas means one of the negative places in the horoscope. 6 represents enemies, Shatrus. So Skanda can defeat enemies. He can control enemies. 6 also are the number of ripus, or the negative tendencies that a human being has. 6 Shad ripu, we call it, 6 ripus. So Skanda has the ability to control all of that, and not just control that, but he also has the ability to take out the energy, the Kundalini Shakti, eventually from the Upasaka's experience, sadhana experience, and then manifest it by removing those 6 barriers, which are the 6 negative, 6 ripus, or the negative things that an individual has, etc. So 6 is a very crucial number for that. And the veil also has another specific power, which is that the veil, there are mantras of the veil can be worshipped using mantras, but very simple upasana of the veil can also be done. People do that. Like to keep the veil, first of all, have a small veil. Okay. It could be made of either metal, or it could be made of wood. There's a specific ebony wood known as karungali. You can have a veil of that. But if you keep that veil, then you cannot do abhishekam of it with liquid or water or anything, because it's wood. So basically, dry abhishekam can be done. You can decorate the veil, put some flowers on it, and then very simply chant the Ashtotranamavalli of Skanda, which is the 108 names of Skanda, which is easily available on the internet. You can chant a few recitations of it 5 or 6 times. Light one diya in front of the veil, put some naivedyam, put something sweet as naivedyam in front, and keep doing the Ashtotranamavalli of Skanda at least a few times, 2 or 3 times every day. And that itself, you'll feel that a certain blessing will come, and that veil will start getting more energized. Then you can carry the veil to different places. Okay. There are, by the way, veil has a very specific, there's a very specific mantra of the veil, which activates the veil, but obviously that is an astra. So astra mantras should not be given out like that, because they're very powerful, and it requires certain maturity in the individual to handle those mantras, because they're very extremely intense mantras. So astras, once they're activated, they will always show an effect. Always.
For an average sadhak, somebody who has been doing some form of Skanda Upasana, if they purchase a veil and then they start a basic sadhana, would you be able to pinpoint a time? How much time would it take to activate a veil actually?
No, it's not about that. It's not about time. It's about, at least if you are able to worship for 48 days without break, even if you do the Skanda Ashtottara once. So the other thing is that the veil has to be, there is some aesthetic decoration of the veil has to be put. Basically, you can put some Ashtagandha on the veil. Ashtagandha, after that you put one red kumkum dot, put some vibhuti on the fresh vibhuti on the veil, put a flower on the veil, light a diya, one agarbatti, put some naivedyam.
He likes to be,
decorated well. Yes. And then you chant the Ashtotranama. this process, if you do for 48 days, the veil will get
48.
energy. 48 days, it gets very, very powerfully energized, and you will definitely start seeing the blessings and the impact of Karthikeya in your life. He is a deity who's extremely potent in controlling Shatrus. Any type of Shatrus. He's the general, the army, head of the army. So he can control any type of Shatrus, specifically people, but not just Shatrus. There are other things also. There are historical evidences that people, especially in Bengal side, certain communities who are traders used to worship Kartikeya because it helps. Apparently, belief was that by his blessing, their business would grow faster. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is another. People who are childless, they also worship Kartikeya because some blessings come to Kartikeya's blessing can in fact bring children into somebody's life. Not just that, we have this the other thing we have, for example, that in ancient times specifically, Kartikeya Upasana used to be very popular even in the Vedic times. So we have evidences of Kartikeya Upasana in the Atharva Veda and other places. So it's that ancient. Okay. And there are deities like the Shashti Devi, we call. For example, in Bengal areas, we see that we'll say after a child is born, on the 6th day,
yes, sir,
there is some puja done. Basically, so
Shashti
yes.
Pujo, as
So
we call
those
it.
are beings, those are Shaktis that surround Kartikeya along with him.
And they keep children protected and
Yes,
safe.
they protect children.
They protect
The
children.
ideas nowadays, we have an advancement of medical science. Say 100, 150 years ago, it wasn't so. So there used to be a lot of deaths of children right after childbirth. So in that case, people used to worship Kartikeya specifically for protection of children till the time they become an adolescent. Okay. So that aspect is also there. And in general, any type of protection.
Sir, Skanda, I mean, they are warriors. They are also protecting children. Helps with keeping the mind steady, willpower. Is there any sadhana that you would advise, like just normal, other than the Ashtotara? A lot of people want to do Skanda sadhana, Skanda Upasana. Other than the Ashtotara, will we need any initiation to read the Ashtotara?
The Ashtotara by itself doesn't need initiation, but the higher mantras of Skanda, it's good to have advice. And not, if not a formal initiation, at least an upadesham from somebody to do these mantras. But some simple mantras like Om Sharavana Bhabaya Nama, these type of mantras are already very popular among people, especially in South. So there's no harm in chanting them as such, but there are more complicated Vija mantras of Skanda, where it's good to have some advice from somebody. And remember, in whole of Skanda's iconography, the veil is actually Parashakti. The veil is Shakti.
Given by...
Not just given, the veil is Shakti. There are two modes of Skanda. One is that when Skanda is a guru, okay, like he's teaching Shiva, that time he doesn't keep the veil. That time he's in meditation. But the moment he holds the veil, the astra, then he is the leader of the army. Then he will go out and he will defeat enemies. Okay. And he has a very strong association with fire also. Mars is also linked to fire. Skanda has a very strong association with fire. But yes.
And he also lives in guhas. That is why he's called Guhan.
Correct. This whole aspect of guha means eventually one realizes that he resides in the cave inside the heart. That is the cave, guha. Deep inside the heart, a realization comes to an upasaka that there is a certain fire that burns, and that fire has linked to Skanda. That fire has linked to Skanda, and the deity we call Skanda even resides there and controls the whole being.
And while he's doing all of this, he rides the Mayura.
Yes.
That is his vahan.
Yes.
Why Mayura, sir? The peacock.
Three things for Mayura. One is that you'll see that the Mayura, when it dances, when the whole the peacock, the feathers are up, it looks very beautiful. One. And number two is that the feathers of the Mayura are a symbol of victory. Mayura represents victory. The other thing that Mayura can do is that you'll see that there are representations of Mayura in Skanda iconography, some of the iconographies in South, where the Mayura is actually holding snakes in its
Yes,
talons.
yes.
Okay, in the with
the claws.
claws,
Yes,
it's holding
yes.
snakes, or sometimes eating a snake
Okay.
in its beak. And then there is Skanda who is sitting on the Mayura.
Mayura.
So that is, snakes are a representation of all negative emotions, all negative ideas, whether it's jealousy, whether it's envy, whether it's this or that, etc. So those things are represented by snakes. And Skanda, the Mayura of Skanda, the vahana of Skanda, is somebody who can control all these things. So control all the negative emotions, etc. This also translates into Skanda's ability to relieve a person from Sarpa doshas. Sarpa doshas are one of the reasons why people have problems with children. Or there are, it's believed in the traditional,
Right.
religious sense, that sometimes if there are issues with having children, or children with some kind of special needs, etc.,
Right.
there could be sometimes effects due to sarpadoshas of past life. Skanda is a deity who can remove those sarpadoshas.
So sarpadoshas would also mean kal sarpadoshas. That's the
No,
same. Oh,
slightly different.
okay.
Sarpadosha is a specific combination that is there in horoscopes, which indicates that some kind of karmic negative link has occurred in that individual. Negative karma has been reaped by the individual due to certain, maybe killing of snakes or something like that. So snakes have, it's a vast topic actually.
Yes.
So in ancient times, it's believed that some of the snakes had certain kinds of spiritual powers. Okay, fundamentally what it leads to is that when a person has, so in the horoscope there are specific combinations which tell you that there is a sarpadosha. When that sarpadosha is present in the horoscope, it means it will manifest in the person's life as sometimes a lack of peace, lack of happiness, lack of children. These things are typical manifestations of sarpadosha. Okay, there could be a strange irritability in their nature. Various things are there. So when a sarpadosha is detected in an individual, and if it is very strong, then at that time the individual is asked to perform remedies for sarpadosha, and some of the remedies involve worship of Skanda, for example, in temples like Kuke Subramaniam in Mangalore, where there are rituals. If performed correctly, they remove the sarpadosha from an individual, and within few months, because they're heavy rituals, it's not a result is not immediate, but it could be.
Okay.
More or less about, say, 3 to 4 months within that phase, one realizes the actual impact of that ritual. So sarpa dosha removal, or anything related to sarpas, controlling of sarpas, is something that Skanda does very well.
So is there a way we can understand Skanda a little? If you could, shed some, more light on this. Something else, like it is difficult to connect to him because most of us don't have much information. We've not had this culture in our homes. Bhairava Tattva, we are somewhat accustomed to. Bhairava
Yes.
is also a guru. Karthik Swami or Skanda is also a guru. How do we absorb and like him and worship him without any gains, like without wanting something? How do we do that?
So one of the things with Karthikeya is that, first of all, Skanda is also linked to Bhairava, very strong. So there are, till at least, again, coming back to very old texts, there are some texts where Skanda is considered similar to Batuka Bhairava as a small child. Batuka means a child,
Ji.
child form of Bhairava. Only difference is that Skanda is more the protector of the Vedic path, whereas Batuka is the protector of the Tantric path.
Okay.
Otherwise, they are quite similar in many aspects. Their speed of response, their energy, strength, etc. Only Skanda is perhaps even more intense in some senses. And it comes in Skanda Upasana as one goes deeper. He feels that there is it's like something that holds him inside, like a frenzy enters into the soul of the Upasaka. And that's why you will see that when Skanda pujas, or so various communities in South relate to Skanda in different ways. And many of them do it through their strong penances, like mutilating the body, or doing various things like walking over fire.
Coal.
Yes,
and
yes.
I've seen
So
some.
those kind of activities help to bring about a frenzy in the soul of devotion, very strong devotion
Okay.
to the deity.
Does it also burn karmas?
It burns karmas, but at that time when it is happening, already the adrenaline in the body is so high,
Okay.
the energy is so high, that you do not at that time feel the pain or anything. Then your primary intense focus is on the deity. So Skanda loves those type of practices. But for any individual, the other thing is that, Skanda is not just a guru, but he is being a general of the war. It's unfortunate that Skanda Upasana is done only in Tamil Nadu and places in South today and not so much in North. It is high time, I feel, that, and I'm talking from a, whether a political or a more larger perspective for this country. Skanda Upasana is again set to come back in a few years' time, along with Bhairava Upasana. This is going to help India and followers of Sanatana Dharma very strongly, because that energy is needed. We are going to pass through certain times where very intense deities and their upasanas are revive at a very large scale. That's going to happen. Bhairava is like the base, the first set.
Okay.
So there are many similarities in Skanda and Bhairava, by the way. Some differences are also there, but there are certain similarities, no doubt about it. One can look at Skanda as a special manifestation of Bhairava. Okay. Bhairava is like the larger form of Shiva. He is Shiva, as we say. And Skanda is a very specific, intense manifestation of that. And the other thing with Skanda Upasana is that it brings in extreme amount of determination and willpower, and which are things which are extremely needed for, when we have a specific result in mind, when you have a goal to achieve, when you have a target to achieve. He gives that determination, he gives that strength, that protection.
Probably even good for children.
Good for children,
good
absolutely.
For children to start.
Yes.
So,
and last but not the least, one of the other things that Skanda does is that he gives a very sharp mind.
okay.
Skanda's blessing means the mind of the individual will become very, very sharp. In fact, historically, we believe that some of the great Mimamsa philosophers of India, like Kumarila Bhatta, who was born in, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was perhaps born in Bihar region, and he had a lot of debate with Buddhists and others, and he was considered as one of the most profound and sharpest philosophical minds. He's written terrific texts and all. So Kumarila was considered as an incarnation of Skanda to protect the Vedic religion from the attack of other dharmas. Okay. So Skanda Upasana also sharpens the mind very quickly. And he gives you that veil is not just a physical thing. It's also that strength, that sharpness of the mind. That is also a significance of the veil.
Any personal experiences that you've had worshipping your veil? Any clarity somewhere where you've been confused, and here you're doing some puja on the veil and clarity? Has that happened with you?
Many times. In fact, I recommend people who are connected to me specifically directly, whom I am directly guiding somewhere or the other, to start some amount of Skanda Upasana. And it's, just today, it's more than a year now. So almost everybody who's around me or helped me out in the Kamakhya Corridor Upasaka Foundation activities directly, I tell them eventually to keep a veil, and you have to start worshipping the veil as well. Even if there's a limited amount of engagement, still it is important to worship the veil, because that energy of the veil brings in a tremendous determination and clarity. It's like you have to, that determination helps you. Any type of obstacle that comes, obstacles will come. Yes. It is not that. The whole point is that you are worshipping deities who are so fierce, holding so much weapons on their hands. That strength, that energy has to be reflecting in you. So it is not that the first obstacle that comes in your way and you are defeated and you're too pansy about it, then you're not fit for the deity worship. That steadiness of Bhairava, that sharpness of Skanda, these two comes together. Skanda is speed also. See, remember these two weapons, when veil or when we look at Karthikeya in Bengal, for example, we have the bow and arrow. Both of them are weapons that are thrown. You don't need to be physically there. So which basically means that the moment there is an issue, there's a problem, when Skanda is activated, his speed is extremely acute. Even before the problem approaches you, right before that, he's already activated the veil. That will go out and that will do whatever it has to be done. All that is needed of the Upasaka is to have that steadiness of the heart. Because he's a war god, so you have to be that serious. He's not here to smile and joke around. You have to be that serious about it, and you allow him to govern your feet, allow him to govern your path. He will open up the path in ways you cannot even imagine. It's a beauty to do Skanda Upasana. This was the one discovery I had because of the Kamakhya Corridor case, and it's wonderful. I mean, I have multiple veils in my home,
Okay.
energized, and I worship them, and I sometimes give them to people when I think they were fit to do Skanda Upasana with basic instructions.
Right.
And it's absolutely beautiful. It's like a frenzy. You eventually enter into that state.
So I can just feel my own excitement.
I remember once initially when I was doing a specific Skanda Upasana, it was very intense initial stages, because that was the time when the case was at a peak stage. Another very senior Upasaka, friend of mine, Sri Vidya Upasaka, very senior, extremely good guy, excellent singer and poet, but also very learned Upasaka. He had an intuitive thought. So nobody knew I was worshipping Skanda and how exactly I was worshipping. That's the other thing. There are many ways of worship, right?
Right.
What mantra I'm doing, what stuti I'm doing, how exactly I'm doing. Nobody had any idea. I had kept it very private. Exact process of worship I never told anybody. So this guy, he was doing his sadhana and he has a very intuitive thought from the deity whom he worships, that I am doing something related to Skanda, and that in the course of what I am doing, I will need to do another XYZ process related to Skanda to bring this to completion. I did not have the knowledge for it. So suddenly one day he pings me and he shares some very rare documents of his sampradaya related to how to do Skanda Upasana, how it links to Tripura Sundari, certain other things about mantra shastras of Skanda. And I asked him, why are you sharing this? He said, I don't know, it's just an intuitive thought I had that I should share. And that is exactly what I needed at that time. This is how the deities play. They know that when you are serious, when they want you to progress, you don't have to run anywhere. Things will come to you. Things will happen on their own. And then that is when you know that you are on the right track. See, this is what I tell. People get impatient. They ask, ki, mera kuch nahi ho raha, ye nahi ho raha. Nature is always fair. There's not 1 ounce of unfairness in nature. If you're not getting it, agar tumhara result nahi aa raha hai, so if you go and stand on top of a mountain and shout, ki, why am I not getting the result? No one is going to answer. Nature will not answer,
No.
because nature believes in Adhikara. Have you attained the right to get the answer? If you have, nature will come, ring the bell at your home and tell you. And if you haven't, you can shout here to there, India to America, kahin pe ghum jao, kuch nahi milne wala hai. You're wasting your time. Develop that patience. That comes from Bhairava. Then that single pointed concentration of Skanda. These two, once you perfect, then you will understand what is the goddess. She's more powerful. She's more delicate and more intense than this. But that comes stage by stage.
So Bhairava sadhana, Skanda sadhana, and then we start doing Ma sadhana.
You can do Devi sadhana along with it, but understanding that is even more beautiful. There is layers and layers of beauty and complexity in that. So these are not randomly designed. These were designed by men of the greatest spiritual intellect. So they knew what they were doing. So that's how this process is. She sits in the middle of the center of the mandala.
Okay.
Bhairava protects the mandala. Skanda is one of the, if you see the iconography of Tripura Sundari, Ganapati is there, Skanda is there, the Pancha, we call it the 5 Ishwaras are there. Then there is Sadashiva. Beyond Sadashiva, she sits. Her feet doesn't even touch the ground. She's that subtle. It's one thing to say, I do the Lalita Shastranama. Many people do. It's all right. To understand that, to reach that level, you have to lift yourself to that level. And you cannot barge yourself into a very refined and absolutely ethereal plane just because you want it. There's no want, there are no rights. Nature doesn't believe in mera adhikar hai, adhikar ka koi sawal nahi hai. Pehle praman karo ki you have reached that stage. You have that tattva inside your body, then the doors will be opened. Not one unfit individual can reach that state. Nature is very clear and nature is always fair. Nature is Bhairava. That's what.
I have 1 or 2 more questions.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a bit more about Vishesh Sadhanas of Skanda, because tomorrow is Shukla Paksha Shashti. And do you do anything specific on these days? And
no, I do certain specific on different days of the week for Skanda, but I will not go into my specific Upasana Paddhati of Skanda. That's private and personal. But for people, I recommend that as for more than a year, people have been doing who are connected to this organization, that on Shashti Tithis, you worship Skanda by the Ashtotranama and put some Naivedyam and some Diya. That's all you do for now. Okay. Eventually, few among them will go more intense in Skanda Upasana. And as I get more clarity, just like Om Bhairavaya Nama, I will, mention what needs to be done for that. The simplest mantra of there's a whole mantra shastra of Skanda. Simplest is Om Sharavana Bhavaya
Sharavana
Namah.
Bhava.
Okay, that can be done by anybody. That is a mantra
So
which is
I'm
already.
sorry, when you were talking, I spoke as well. Can you just mention?
Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namah. Okay, once this is done, this is at the beginning stage, and this is very beautiful in its own way. Okay, you will feel that strength inside your heart when you do that. And there are other mantras also, by the way. There are Vija mantras and there are more complicated and powerful mantras of Skanda, but those come step by step at a later stage.
So like you're doing the Bhairava temples, will you also be doing some Skanda temple, or will you have Skanda in those temples?
Yes. So all the Bhairava temples will have a Skanda Pratishtha in them.
Okay.
So there will be 11 deities in total. Each of the temples will have in the center of the temple, there will be one primary form of Bhairava. Along with that, there will be a primary form of Devi. Then these will be surrounded by 8 Bhairavas. Along with it, there will be a shrine of Skanda. So this is the whole combination. 11 deities will be there in the temple established.
And I saw a document, I think online, Skand Purana, like a little PDF. Do you recommend if...
No, it's fine to read that, but more important than that is to start doing the worship regularly. And if you carry on the worship for few months, you will start to understand the energy of the deity, and you will see if it relates to you or not. In fact, people who have certain combinations of Mars in the horoscope, for them Skanda Upasana is very good.
So we start the Skand Sadhana. If we don't have a veil, we don't need a veil.
Initially, you need nothing.
Okay,
you just need to have the Ashtotranama from the internet. Start with that. Do it more. If you like it, do it more. I tell people to do 6 or 12, or there's a specific count that the team puts out, and you can do more than that. What is stopping you? But consistency is the key. All good things happen when time, patience, consistency is added to it. You cannot do it nothing should be done in 10-15 days. As I said, do for 40 days, 48 days, etc. My first Skanda Upasana, when I started, 144 days is the complete mandala. 144 days without break I did. I remember once I was going for a specific temple with one of my friends, who's also a guide, who's also a part of the Upasaka Foundation. And very hectic schedule of travel, so I was not able to complete the full puja in my room. I was staying in a hotel and I had to rush to some place, etc. So I was doing a particular stuti of Skanda in the car, and I told him to wait and let me complete this first. And then there's this man who comes in from there, is standing right outside the car, and he's holding a stick like this, an old man, and he's intently listening, and he's like giving a blessing. And then we give him some money, but it was not so much for the money he was standing. Very, very peculiarly, I had this feeling that it was like a blessing from Skanda at that time. And for the work that we went, it went on smooth as butter. I was a little anxious because it was a new thing we were doing. Somewhere a certain puja has to be done. I was went like absolute perfect. In fact, both of us who were sitting in the car, we felt that this man, just like that, he came and he was not asking for money or anything, just with a staff in his hand like a danda. Right. He's standing and he's listening to what I'm chanting, and I complete that, and there's a very beautiful smile on his face, and he just blesses. Can we give him some 10 rupee or something like that, and he takes it. But we had the feeling that it is as if, see, this is how deities play. They can come through human form and give you a blessing. And then the work for which I was there, it went so well. Perfect. So
it is so strange. You started Skanda Sadhana to help yourself, so that you can help with the Kamakhya Corridor case. Yes. So when you dig a grave for somebody, you need to dig a grave for yourself. And when you try to help something, automatically, you get good luck, Devi Devtas added onto your life.
Yeah.
And you enrich our lives as well. A little shaken hearing these stories firsthand. So with that, we'll wrap this episode on Skanda.
Yes.
And we'll just take a break.
Sure.
And thank you so much. Yeah. Jai Matara, sir.
Jai Matara, Jai Bhairava,
Jai Kamakhya,
Jai Karthik Swami.
Jai Karthik Swami, Jai Murugan Swami. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.